They spent most of the evenings together, and late in the evening they went in different directions. Eventually, I established a pattern clear enough to call Jenny on Thursday night and announce that the next night was the night. She arranged for the children to go to her parents for the night. I drove to her house and parked in the driveway. Then, after kissing her on the lips, I wheeled John's old motorcycle out the back gate and started it a block from her house. Once at his friend's, I looked around, then quietly fired an air pistol at a street lamp. After that, all that was left was to wait in the bushes on the side of the driveway. He surprised me by breaking my routine. He arrived in 40 minutes by taxi, not by car. The reason became clear when I saw his unsteady steps walking down the driveway. He was drunk, so hitting on the sly was never in my nature. My sense of honor demanded a fair fight. I stood in front of him. "Hello, John." He froze. Then, in the dim light, I saw recognition flash in his eyes. He definitely didn't react the way I expected. Well, it's not called Dutch courage for nothing. Well, this is the guy who couldn't keep his woman in line. A very bad move on his part. Instantly, my carefully thought-out plan for a limited attack went out the window. The offended animal attacked. A right hand to the jaw made him fall to all fours. Then my memory became a little foggy. According to later reports, I hit him several times in the ribs, trampled his kidneys and shins, and then delivered half a dozen well-aimed blows between the legs. Luckily, my red haze cleared, allowing me to complete the last part of my plan. I picked up his unconscious body and threw it into the middle of the road. Maybe the police will think he's just another unfortunate hit-and-run victim. Maybe not. Jenny was looking forward to my return and asked me how it went. She didn't seem upset that I broke my plan in anger. Upset people don't usually smile like Cheshire cats. Once she had all the dirty details, I excused myself to go shower and get rid of any potential evidence. I checked for bruises on my knuckles. Everything is fine. My eyes were closed as I felt a cool breeze and then warm skin. A pair of arms grabbed me from behind. "I thought you didn't want this." "To hell with what I want. Do you need it? You took the man, now you need to take his woman." I turned around and we kissed. God, how I needed this. We finally broke away from each other. Besides, when the police come to check the alibi, I want to be as convincing as possible. Now finish and go to the bedroom. Who am I to refuse a lady's request? Still wet, I threw it on the bed. Usually, as a lover, I take pride in my attention to a woman. Today, there was none of this. I took it as long and as hard as I could. As far as I can tell, she liked it too. I awoke in the pre-dawn light when I felt her slip back into bed. She pressed herself close to me. "I'm so sorry, Jen. Last night I was very tired. I hope you weren't too disappointed. If it was you in second gear, God help me when I get your third." I did everything to bring her to her peak, and then gently made love to her several more times. After that, we both fell asleep again. I woke up when breakfast and coffee arrived. "Hey Dave, some idiot broke the back window of your car last night. I've already called the police." Of course, the police came and my number was entered into their system. This was soon followed by a report of a possible attack the previous night. It was very convenient that my alibi and I were together in a house that smelled of sex. A nosy neighbor confirmed our story that my car was parked there at the time of the attack, as it had been several times a week recently. I was never a serious suspect. I saw Tracy again about a week after her lover's bad night. She called and said she would come pick up the rest of the things. When I explained that everything was donated to charity, she said she still wanted to talk. As her car pulled up, I looked out the window and saw Tracy standing next to her car, talking on the phone. I opened the door in my robe when she finally knocked. She frowned at my choice of clothing, but my face gave nothing away as I invited her inside. I took my phone and purse, took them to the spare room, and closed the door. She was smart enough to realize that I suspected she might try to record this conversation. We sat on either side of the kitchen table. "Dave, you should know that I agreed with my friend that if I don't call within 60 minutes, she will send the police here." I nodded in response to her wise precaution, but remained silent. There was only one thing I needed to tell her, and it could wait. Dave, can I just say how sorry I am that our marriage ended? Save your breath, Tracy. I have absolutely no interest in sitting here and listening to you try to ease your conscience by justifying why you tried to destroy me. Okay, Dave, it was you who beat John, wasn't it? Yes. This took her by surprise. She clearly expected me to deny it. What? What's so hard to understand, Tracy? You asked me if I beat up the asshole, and I said yes. It was me. But why? He never did anything to you. Listen, Tracy, extramarital sex couldn't ruin your brain that quickly. When I saw you cheating on me with him, it completely emasculated me, destroyed my masculine confidence. This made me doubt my ability to satisfy a woman. It took away my pride. She was shocked. I think she never considered this aspect. That's what it means to change. After a while, I realized that I had two options. I could become a sad, lonely old man, like your father. A sexless, empty carcass. Or I can fight my way out of the corner you and your lover have driven me into. Are you really surprised that I chose the male version? The only option that will allow me to remain a man. Is it so? Yes, I destroyed your boyfriend, and if I feel it's necessary so that I can hold my head high, then I will do it again and again. You forced me into this, Tracy. Only one can survive. To stop you and him from destroying me, I must destroy both of you. These words were spoken with such calm, chilling confidence that they left no room for doubt. Boo. But John and I just fell in love, Dave. There was nothing we could do. You remember being in love, right? Yes, Tracy, I remember what happened 8 weeks ago. As I said that day, it may not have been your choice to fall in love, but it was your choice what to do and how to do it. If you just came to me and said, Dave, I'm in love with someone else, I want a divorce, then I'd be sad, but I'd be happy to give you your freedom or fight to get your love back. Whatever I chose at the time. By declaring your intentions the way you did, viciously and cruelly, you declared war on me, betrayed everything I stand for and everything I thought you stood for. What now, Dave? Can you leave John and me alone now that you've had your revenge? Yes, I think I can. If only because I can't think of anything else that could be destroyed. Thank you, Dave. Don't worry, Tracy. It's not me you should worry about. Huh? I took revenge on Johnny Boy. His wife hasn't started on you yet. If I were you, I'd keep an eye on her. I can say that she is a very angry lady. At that moment, a woman's voice came from the bedroom. Are you going back to bed, Dave? You promised me 6 amazing peaks a day and you haven't delivered yet. Who is this? Jenny. She ran away screaming. I walked up the stairs to a fully dressed Jenny. She held me until the shaking stopped. As for Tracy, she flew somewhere far away. I never tried to find her or contact her again. Like I said, my name is Dave and I feel great. I read somewhere that some people who take revenge on those who have wronged them find it an empty experience. Pig ass! This is the most effective cure for depression that I have ever heard of. It's time to stop dwelling on the past. A new life awaits me. Jen and I never became a couple. We used each other to ease our frustrations quite regularly, but there wasn't the necessary spark to move on to the next stage. But we were good friends and cared about each other. Under our joint leadership, Rob and Sarah made it work. I retreated when potential boyfriends were around her and stayed away from her bed until the relationship ended. 1 or 2 of them were a little scared of me, since I told them that if they hurt her in any way, they would have to answer to me. Before the latter proposed to her, he even asked my permission. He was a great guy and I happily blessed their union. The wedding was very emotional. Her father left and she asked me to walk her down the aisle. At the wedding, she introduced me to her old friend. With my Jenny and self-therapy, I have become stable enough to have a normal relationship and am now thinking about asking Jenny to marry me. Well, why not? If it weren't for the toll I exacted on the 2 crooks, would I have recovered enough to lead a normal life? Definitely not. My name is Tracy and my life has been hell over the past 2 years. I think I can justify what I did then. However, it's much harder to justify what I did last week. Looking back, my life with Dave was good. However, it became stale. The only thing I have left is my first granddaughter. So when John started showing interest in me as a woman, I felt like a teenager again. He was attentive and caring, and what can I say? He swept me off my feet. Deep down, I knew that something was wrong with us, but it was damn nice. Our relationship followed the usual pattern of talking, dating, kissing. I don't remember guilt ever being a problem. By the time we crossed the line and kissed, I knew I loved him, and he loved me. We planned to leave our spouses and get married. My friend Carol, who went through a difficult divorce, explained that her ex took over all the assets from the beginning, and she had a very hard time even hearing a lawyer. That's why John and I calmly took control of everything. I didn't know how his wife would react, but I was pretty sure my Dave wouldn't be happy. We talked often about cheating, and I knew I was crossing the line even before John and I announced our decision. I fully intended to give Dave everything the court would require after the divorce. I just wanted to be in the driver's seat and protect myself from any retaliation. Carol also asked if I slept with John. I've never really enjoyed making love, but a girl has to think she's still woman enough to be sexually attractive. I knew my husband still found me like this. He quite often demanded that I hug him. If I had the same spark for Dave that I had for John, this whole mess could have been avoided. One way or another, Carol planted doubts in my head. What if John wasn't very wealthy as a man? When I sometimes needed sex, I wanted it to be good, right? At my stage in life, sex was more of an emotional thing than a physical thing. I didn't expect John to be as good as Dave. Dave was attentive, gentle, and filled me with pleasure. This is what gave birth to my latest catastrophic betrayal of my marriage. So my first meeting with John was a double exercise. One to test it out, and the other as a final bridging exercise to steel ourselves for the emotionally challenging tasks we have planned for the next few days. To be honest, I wanted to get John's attention so that he wouldn't give up on our plans. Even then, I suspected that he was a rather weak person. Did I ignore the possibility that I would get caught and Dave would freak out? Have I thought about how this will affect my father and children? The simple answer is no. I never expected to get caught. And if I did, I never expected Dave's nuclear response. As for the rest, I just didn't think about it. I have never compared myself to my mother. I was so young when she left us that she just wasn't part of the equation. After everything it cost me, I would like to say that sex with John was mind-blowing. But that was not the case. I found myself pretending to be happy, just like I did with Dave. I still have no idea how Dave found out about my one and only affair. It's just not important to me. I was devastated when I saw the pain in his eyes when he entered the room. Later, I tried to justify it to myself, but, of course, I couldn't. He never did anything bad enough to warrant it. My guilt manifested itself as defiance for a very short time, but it did not last long. The thought of my father witnessing my wrongdoing and my daughter's words just killed me. John's daughter's gaze was almost as terrible. I had no idea that my husband was capable of such cruelty. When I got the call from the hospital about John's admission, I instinctively knew it was Dave's doing. Doctors believed John's broken jaw, concussion, bruised kidney, 3 broken ribs, cracked tibia, and shattered groin were consistent with an accident. I thought differently. That's why I called the police and gave them Dave's name and license plate number. But when I called back 2 days later, they said Dave was above suspicion. That's why I didn't leave John's side the entire week he was in the hospital. I knew he needed my protection. Just 2 months ago, if you had asked me if my Dave was capable of doing this, I would have answered, no way. Within 15 minutes, in my old bedroom, I caught a glimpse of a new one, Dave the monster. The monster I knew I had created. A monster more than capable of limitless cruelty. Yeah, I just knew it was Dave. That's why, just before John was discharged, I called Dave and agreed to meet at our old house. This shit had to stop. Hasn't he taken revenge yet? John and I were both destroyed. We have to accept it. I was sad to walk to my front door. Not as sad as I expected from the upcoming conversation. How did I go from loving a man to thinking of him as an enemy in such a short time? Before I rang the doorbell, I called Carol and told her to call the police if she didn't hear from me in an hour. Dave opened the door in a robe. unusual. There was no expression on his face when he invited me in. When he asked me to hand over my phone and purse, I scolded myself for not thinking to take the recorder with me. Then I asked myself why. He never admits to the attack. I quickly glanced at the stranger I had known for over 27 years. I felt remorse for the way our marriage ended. By explaining how I fell, I hoped to ease his pain and maybe get him to back off a little. He cut me off as soon as I started. He said he didn't care why. His tone was harsh and his expression blank. Who is this guy? I didn't recognize either the face or the voice. I was stunned when he blithely admitted that he had beaten John. When I heard his motivation, I understood why he did it. Let's just say it didn't ease my conscience at all. I honestly didn't understand why Dave hated John so much. He, of course, very quickly brought this idea to my mind. I suddenly realized how self-centered I had become. It blinded me and allowed me to rationalize the completely unacceptable. I suddenly realized not only what we were being punished for, but also that, judging by the expression on Dave's face, this was not all. My question whether he remembered what love was part of my prepared speech. His response was like a knife stabbing me in the stomach. How else can a decent person feel? I knew I had to run. I didn't think John's wife was a physical threat until I heard what Dave said. With a flash of insight, I suddenly seemed to be in her place. What would I do if she did to me what I did to her? A chill ran down my spine. When I discovered she was upstairs, I ran. I picked John up from the hospital, and we both ran. Both divorces were finalized. The documents were delivered to our mailbox, located 2 cities from my new home. The stress of living anonymously, without friends, and constantly looking over your shoulder was enormous. Eventually, we had some money. The wait was hard. 6 months later, John and I got married. Looking back, we were 2 castaways thrown together, and it was a mistake. I also think one of the motivations was that by getting married, we could retrospectively justify the pain we had caused to many, especially ourselves. My latest fall started harmlessly enough. After suffering injuries, he was completely incapable of erection. We could never afford the testosterone treatment needed to alleviate this problem. This caused him to be moody, insecure, and jealous. Let's face it, a marriage that is rooted in infidelity is an uphill battle from the start. Because of his grumpiness, I also became very unfriendly. One of my friends recommended HRT therapy to me, and in this way she cured her similar condition. I balked at the likely cost, but she explained that since every second woman over 45 was treated, it was much cheaper than testosterone therapy. Another visit to the doctor, and, as if by magic, my life was back to happy normalcy. My doctor warned me that one of the side effects of the estrogen pills was the revival of my libido. He said it with a grin, as if it was a good thing. However, when this happens to a wife whose husband is incapable of anything, it is very destructive. I felt more horny than I ever had after the first 5 years of my marriage to Davy. When the guy at my new job started showing interest in me, I couldn't help but respond. He was much younger than me, which was very flattering. It was extremely difficult to hide our dates. The insanely jealous John was much harder to fool than Dave. The first time we kissed, it was like an electric shock, not from excitement, but from a strong sense of déjà vu. I refused to go through that again. I refused to change. I thought long and hard, but in the end, I found a solution. It wasn't ideal, but John had to respect my reasons, didn't he? So I sat John down on Thursday night last week and told him as gently as I could that I wouldn't be home on Friday night. I need to meet my lover. I'll be discreet. It's just sex, and I'll never rub his nose in it. I took his silence on Thursday night and Friday morning as a reluctant agreement. After treating me to dinner and disappointingly short sex, my new lover fell asleep. Confused, I went home to the trailer where John and I lived. He wasn't there. The howl of sirens at dawn alerted me to the fact that he was hanging and swinging from a tree. I did it again. Destroyed a person. I braced myself for the payback I knew he was orchestrating. I was surprised to find that it consisted only of a suicide note and a letter to his lawyer. So, the suicide note was emailed to all of our remaining friends, who immediately abandoned me. The letter to his lawyer was to change the beneficiaries of his insurance policy and his will from me to his children. When will I learn? Never touch a man's pride. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.